This girl's name is Yisol. She is looking at the bright sunlight outside the building. Yisol told a colleague that it will rain heavily in a while. Then she quietly counted down from 5. As soon as the number 1 ended, it suddenly started to rain heavily outside the window. The colleague next to her was very surprised. Yisol appeared very calm, because she knew that her sixth sense had always been extremely accurate. But the sixth sense could not surprise everyone. The night before, Yisol and the planning team had used the sixth sense to create an advertising plan. But the next day, they were criticized and ridiculed by their superior, Minhu. In the company, Minhu was nicknamed Father God because his working ability was extremely good. His talent in the advertising field was unmatched. Yisol had just entered the company and studied under him, but her experiences were not very good. When the two first met, Minhu had already picked on Yisol in many ways, and he was not lenient with her at work. Yisol had to stay up countless nights to write plans, but her plans were still underestimated by him. After each time he humiliated Yisol, Minhu would compensate her with something. For example, he would spend his own money for her to buy clothes for work, or he would tell Yisol to rest for about 2 hours and then come back to work. This way of both hitting and comforting made Yisol extremely disgusted. But it cannot be denied that Minhu's talent helped Yisol improve a lot. Yisol was gradually changed by Minhu. From the intern who used to cry a lot, she had now become a manager who could take charge of projects. The amazing thing was that now she also used the way Minhu treated her to comfort her. 22 years ago was the first time Yisol discovered that if she touched someone's lips, she would see that person's future. Unexpectedly, after growing up, this ability negatively affected her love life. Every time Yisol kissed her boyfriend, she saw him cheating in the end. It led to a quick end to the relationship. This kind of ability really only made her more upset. From then on, she went through a very long period of being single. She would rather be single than kiss someone else to avoid seeing someone else's future. After staying up all night, Yisol finally completed a plan. When reporting to Minhu, she suddenly had a nosebleed. Minhu realized that Yisol's condition wasn't good, so he didn't criticize her this time. But it was clear that the director wasn't very satisfied with this advertising plan. Fortunately, Minhu was there, so the director reluctantly approved it. After completing the task, the whole team cheered and congratulated her, and she was finally able to go home and rest. But Yisol was called away by Minhu. He drove straight to the hospital. Yisol was an old acquaintance of the doctor, and the doctor had advised Yisol many times to sleep more. Furthermore, she shouldn't drink anything with high caffeine content, but she still couldn't change this habit. Sungtae was extremely helpless. While complaining, he accidentally said, "Why were the people from the advertising company so willful?" Yisol got the information. It seemed that there were other people from the company being treated here. That day, when she went to the outdoor filming location, her female colleague, knowing Yisol's bad habits, so reminded her to fall in love quickly. Only when she was with her boyfriend could she sleep well. But after the failure of her previous relationship many years ago, Yisol no longer wanted to put her illusions into men. At the filming location, Yisol accidentally saw Minhu and Ji-hyung's intimate actions. Because she was so confused, someone who was normally quick-witted like her immediately became flustered. Yisol always thought that a cold and heartless working machine like Minhu did not need to fall in love at all. But the truth proved her wrong. Yisol ran out of the filming location. Unexpectedly, Minhu chased after her, and suddenly he pressed her against the wall. He warned her not to think too much. The commercial filming scene had been prepared, and they would start filming the next day. But Yisol still felt a little uneasy. Sure enough, Minhu called her in the middle of the night. It was pouring rain outside, so Yisol immediately dragged her luggage and ran to the filming location. Then she packed up the props displayed outdoors with Minhu. He was very dissatisfied with her not considering the weather conditions and preparing the scene in advance. But Yisol also had her own troubles. The person in charge of filming, Kyung-suk, was a scoundrel. Kyung-suk did not care about responsibility. Yisol could not do many things at the same time, so she could not consider everything perfectly. At this moment, the atmosphere between them was extremely awkward. Yisol was helpless, so could only help silently. Unexpectedly, while transporting, she accidentally tripped over an electric wire and rushed towards Minhu, causing him to fall onto the prop cushion, and the two of them touched lips. In Yisol's mind appeared an image of the future. Unexpectedly, it was an image of her and him happily together, compared to the current intimate situation that seemed terrified her even more. No matter how Yisol thought about it, she couldn't figure out how the two of them became lovers. After dawn, Yisol barged into Minhu's room, wanting to talk to him. Unexpectedly, she saw the other party changing clothes. Through the glass, she saw his shiny back, but in the future, that she saw Minhu clearly had a scar on his back. Yisol was lost in thought and was chased out by Minhu. After he changed his clothes, Kyung-suk slowly appeared. Faced with his irresponsibility, Kyung-suk just wanted to smile and let it go. But Minhu didn't let it go that easily. Halfway through filming, the vice president of the advertising company came to the set. It turned out that because of Kyung-suk's irresponsibility, the staff couldn't get the reddish-brown bed needed to film the commercial. Seeing the vice president angry, everyone was helpless. In the end, Min-hoo proposed to remove the prop bed and instead use abstract images to represent the product. This would give viewers more room for imagination. Min-hoo's ideas could always solve everything, so the vice director immediately agreed to this temporary solution. During a break in filming, Yi-sol saw Min-hoo and Ji-young talking to each other. An unpleasant feeling rose in her heart. When it was almost dark, the busy work finally ended. Min-hoo always handled the paperwork to finish work, but today he got in the car early. Ever since his lips touched Yi-sol, he felt extremely uncomfortable. That night, Min-hoo put on sunglasses and headphones to prepare for bed, but the street racing kept him awake. At this time, Ji-young also came to Min-hoo's house. As soon as she saw Min-hoo's appearance, she immediately realized that he must have kissed someone, because before, when the two of them kissed, Min-hoo also felt unwell. Faced with Ji-young's questioning, Min-hoo couldn't stand it anymore. He insisted on sending her home. The next day, Min-hoo didn't go to work on time as usual, but the meeting about the advertising project was about to take place, so Yi-sol could only tell the other employees in the company to go to the meeting room first. The director was unhappy when he saw that the advertising video didn't have any products. Kim-suk saw that the situation was not good and immediately blamed Yi-sol. The board of directors was about to vent their anger on Yi-sol when Min-hoo arrived just in time. His excellent presentation convinced the director and helped the company sign the contract smoothly. After the meeting ended, Yi-sol still felt a little unacceptable. She went to find Kyung-suk to ask for clarification. It was clear that he did not answer the phone and did not accept the job, but at the crucial moment he pushed all the responsibility onto her. While the two were arguing, Min-hoo came over and told Yi-sol to go first. Then he listed in detail the evidence of Kyung-suk's debauchery while working. Seeing that Min-hoo was holding his weak points, Kyung-suk just kept silent. Then Yi-sol went to find Min-hoo and thanked him for helping her. Before leaving, Yi-sol gave Min-hoo a box of chocolate. After the advertising idea was approved, Yi-sol and the team members also prepared a small website for the bedding company. After a busy day, the scene was finally set up. When all the colleagues left, Min-hoo appeared. Surprisingly this time, he did not criticize her at all. Yi-sol was recognized, so she was very happy. That day, went to the hospital to cause trouble with Song-tae. She wanted to know who had kissed Min-hoo. It turned out that Song-tae was also treating Min-hoo. After chasing Ji-young away, he called Min-hoo to tell what had happened. Song-tae also asked about Min-hoo's condition. This time, to ease the discomfort caused by the kiss, Min-hoo took twice as much medicine as usual, but he did not want to say too much, so he quickly hung up. The next day, a large number of guests came to attend, so the event was extremely successful. Everyone lying on the bed to take souvenir photos and post them on social media, completing the promotion for the brand. Min-hoo also came to the event, but instead of encouraging him, he found some mistakes. He also told the sprayer staff to clean the air and tighten a certain baffle of the bearing frame. These confusing instructions made Yi-sol and Young-ji very dissatisfied. The two of them spoke behind Min-hoo's back. Unexpectedly, Ji-young heard all of these words. As someone who always admired Min-hoo, Ji-young immediately started to mock Yi-sol, consider it revenge for her nonsense. At this time, an emergency suddenly happened. A homeless person lying on the prop bed insisted on resting here. Yi-sol and the staff wanted to chase this person away, but this person suddenly went crazy. Yi-sol suddenly reacted. The things Min-hoo had told him before were exactly the method to deal with this person. That was to remove the stench on his body and maintain the safety of the support frame. However, the support frame was still broken by the homeless person shaking it violently. Yi-sol couldn't stand and fell backwards. Min-hoo Lao came to support her and fell to the ground. His back was seriously injured, so he was immediately taken to the doctor for treatment. At this time, Yi-sol discovered that the wound on Min-hoo's back and the future image she saw were exactly the same. Because Min-hoo was injected with anesthesia, Song-tae was not comfortable letting him drive, so he forced Yi-sol to take him home. Yi-sol carried the sleeping Min-hoo home and put him on the bed. Looking at the scene in front of her, the image and Yi-sol's sixth sense awakened again. It was in this place that the two of them kissed passionately and had a wonderful night. Yi-sol still couldn't believe it. She wanted to try kissing him again to confirm. When Yi-sol slowly approached the sleeping Min-hoo, he suddenly opened his eyes. Yi-sol was about to kiss him when she was suddenly stunned on the spot. But soon, she pretended to be calm. She used the fastest speed to leave his house. Yi-sol couldn't be sure yet, but according to what she saw at Min-hoo's house, through her sixth sense, the two of them would sleep together once in the future. This was something that would definitely happen. Seeing Yi-sol tormented by this like this, her best friend comforted her. Don't make yourself in a bad mood all the time because of such a thing. Sleeping together didn't mean falling in love. Everything should just go with the flow. The next day, the vice president happily announced that the betting advertising plan had been a great success. Min-hoo was indeed a master in the advertising industry. Despite being praised, he was still extremely modest. And he didn't forget to remind that Yisol was the one in charge of most of the work. Her merit should have been more than that. During the party of management, Minho kept mentioning Yisol, which made Kyungsuk very dissatisfied. After work, Yisol went backstage to help clean up, while the decoration workers mentioned Minho. It seemed that Minho cared a lot about Yisol. Before the event, he had come by to check the equipment. This sentence made her feel warm inside. At this moment, Minho conveniently took the things that Yisol was carrying, and without saying a word, helped her with the work. This made Yisol even more moved. But the good feeling did not last long. After the work was finished, Minho raised his hand to rub his pharynx. Yisol knew that Minho was about to start scolding her again. Sure enough, he continuously criticized her. He also warned her to go home right after finishing work next time, and not to bother bringing him home. His words successfully made the little good feeling that had just arisen in her heart disappear. Yisol had no choice but to apologize repeatedly. The atmosphere immediately fell into silence. At this time, the advertising screen on the tall building by the roadside was showing Pilyo receiving the award. Yisol's eyes were a bit complicated. Minho also noticed the change in her emotions. It turned out that Yo-Yo was Yisol's ex-boyfriend. That night, Yisol worked overtime at the company to write a plan when the power suddenly went out. In the darkness, Minho suddenly walked up to her. When she touched him, she screamed continuously. Minho unconsciously used his hand to cover her mouth. When Yisol's lips touched Minho's palm, she saw an image of the future again. At the 30th anniversary party, Minho held the ring and walked in front of her. This scene made Yisol feel strange again. Could it be that Minho had always secretly loved her? A moment later, it was pouring rain. Minho stood by the window. 2 years ago, she had said that she liked listening to the sound of rain and falling asleep. This made Yisol very surprised. Perhaps Minho had feelings for her, so he remembered the words that she only said with her mouth. But Minho's attitude was still as cold as before, making Yisol very confused. A few days later was the advertising company's 30th anniversary party. Yisol and her colleagues went shopping. They accidentally saw Minho. Unexpectedly, he was standing in front of a jewelry counter. Colleagues were very curious, so they immediately probed Yisol. She guessed that it was very likely that this ring was the one he gave her, so she had no choice but to change the subject. On the day of the party, Yisol opened her wardrobe. Only the red dress was suitable to wear on this occasion, so she put it on and went to the party. Minho was in the distance wearing a suit and leather shoes, looking handsome as he walked over. Yisol couldn't help but remember the image of him hugging and kissing Minho through her sixth sense. He was dressed like this too. As the party was coming to an end, Yisol received a ring, but the person who gave the ring was not Minho, but Pilyo, who had been apart for many years. He wanted to get back together with her, but Yisol didn't want to. Pilyo's appearance made Yisol a little upset. When she crossed the street, she was like a person lost soul, and almost got hit by a car. Luckily, at the crucial moment, Minho pulled her into his arms, but as soon as he lowered his head, he saw her crying. He was very surprised, so he could only follow all her requests. Minho invited Yisol to have a barbecue meal. Seeing her gluttonous appearance, Minho mentioned a certain night 3 years ago. Yisol suddenly cried and said she didn't want to date anymore. Then she dragged him to eat meat and drink. She even got him drunk. That night, Yisol also drank quite a bit. She happily did crazy things, making him have no choice but to push her into the car. After getting in the car, she used the alcohol to tell the secret in her heart. As long as she kissed someone, she would see their future. The last time the two accidentally touched lips, Yisol saw her and him hugging and kissing. Didn't believe that the two would develop into a couple, so she wanted to confirm it again. Minho hesitated for a moment, then he leaned forward and kissed Yisol. The next day, Yisol realized she was at the hotel. After she woke up, she was extremely embarrassed about what happened yesterday. To avoid misunderstandings, Minho intentionally bought a new outfit for Yisol to wear to work. Then he asked what she saw last night when the two kissed in the car. Yisol tried to think, not knowing if it was because she was drunk or for some other reason that Yisol couldn't remember anything. Minho suspected her sixth sense, so he suspected that she had secretly loved him for a long time, and this was just an excuse. Because the two of them had no interest in each other, they couldn't be together. Halfway through, Pilyo walked in. He frowned and couldn't help but speculate. Could it be that the two of them spent the night together last night? Seeing the tense atmosphere, Pilyo took the initiative to greet Minho. It turned out that Pilyo was the director who would be collaborating with them on the company's next project. It seemed that in the future, the three of them would encounter many more awkward situations like this. The next day after finishing work, Minho hurriedly called Songtae. He asked if Songtae had changed his medication. It turned out that every time kissed someone else, Minho's body felt extreme pain. But last night, after kissing Yisol, Minho didn't feel any discomfort at all. His body was extremely normal. This change made Minho look at Yisol with disbelief. He couldn't guess why she was such a special person. On the other hand, Yi-Sol thought all day. She felt that Minhu still didn't believe in her ability, so proved that her sixth sense was real and not just acting to pursue him. After work, she made an appointment to meet him. Yi-Sol kissed the back of Minhu's hand 3 times in a row, and then she told him about the future one by one. That was a doctor with a nosebleed appearing in Minhu's house. When the two were filming a commercial in the desert, a car drove around her. Yi-Sol almost fell. Minhu dropped and broke his phone while pulling her back. Minhu was extremely surprised after hearing these 3 stories, but Yi-Sol only said that much. Was it trustworthy or not? They could only wait for things to happen. The next day, Pilyo went to the advertising company to meet Minhu to discuss the cooperation in filming the commercial. After Pilyo joined the company, he did not hide his desire to win Yi-Sol's heart back, but Yi-Sol avoided him, even hesitating for a long time when shaking her hand. Pilyo had previously used the pretext of shaking hands to take the opportunity to hold Yi-Sol's hand tightly and not let go. Working together with Pilyo had stirred up Yi-Sol's inner turmoil. After work, she went to the billboard on the top floor to relax. Unexpectedly, Pilyo also suddenly appeared. It turned out that this was once a secret base when the two were in love. The blackboard on the wall also had the beautiful dream they wrote at that time. Now the two of them had realized their dream, but their love was gone. Yi-Sol didn't want to have anything to do with Pilyo anymore. When she was about to leave, he stopped her. To settle the debt, Yi-Sol had broken his expensive camera when the two of them broke up. Yi-Sol also didn't want to owe Pilyo, so she agreed to compensate him. Now Pilyo revealed his true intention. As long as Yi-Sol dated him 3 times, he would reduce the camera compensation. Before Pilyo's request, she did not have any lingering desire to rekindle their relationship, but only angrily clenched her fists. On the other hand, Sungtae accidentally met Yi-Sol's best friend Ho-woo at a bar. After that, the two fell into a sweet and passionate love. That day, Sungtae and Ho-woo finished their date, and while they were in a good mood, they invited Ji-young to Minhu's house to drink. But Minhu did not understand the feeling of passionate love. He felt bored and wanted to go to sleep. Sungtae couldn't keep calm, so he chased into the bedroom to fight with Minhu. As a result, he accidentally hit the wall and got a nosebleed. Minhu was surprised. Wasn't this one of the things Yi-Sol had seen in the future? Because Joss's theme was an unreleased car, Pilyo wanted to see the car with his own eyes to get inspiration for his composition. Yi-Sol, as the project manager, had to go with him to the car company. All the way, Pilyo kept flirting with Yi-Sol, making her uncomfortable. At this moment, Minhu suddenly appeared and joined the test drive group. With Minhu, the Pilyo stopped flirting with Yi-Sol. The 3 of them drove to the deserted suburbs. When Yi-Sol and Minhu got out of the car, Pilyo drove around in a luxury car non-stop. Yi-Sol suddenly pointed at the dust. The second future she saw was this moment. While Minhu was on the phone, Pilyo took off the car cover and started to take photos. But this action violated the confidentiality agreement for the unreleased car. Yi-Sol stepped forward to stop him, but still couldn't stop Pilyo. Until after taking the photos, he asked her if she agreed to fulfill his promise from the past. As long as he wins the prize, she will agree to his proposal. Yi-Sol thinks that the two of them cannot get back together, but Pilyo still doesn't want to give up. He will always carry the engagement ring with him and wait for the moment Yi-Sol agrees. Minhu heard all of these words. Yi-Sol was about to turn around and leave when she accidentally stepped on a rock. Minhu dropped his phone screen while trying to catch her, and thus the third future that Yi-Sol mentioned happened. At this moment, he couldn't help but believe a hunch. If the future of the two of them sleeping together was inevitable, then let's make it today. After Minhu made an offer, Ji-young suddenly appeared. Ji-young curiously asked what the two were talking about. Minhu didn't expect this hassle character to suddenly appear, so he immediately pulled Ji-young away. While in the elevator, Ji-young guessed that Minhu was dating Yi-Sol. Ji-young then reminded him that if Yi-Sol knew his secret, she might not agree to date him. This sentence really made Minhu a little worried, so he told Yi-Sol to temporarily cancel tonight's date. Let's talk about it tomorrow. After returning home, Yi-Sol kept thinking about what conditions Minhu had not mentioned earlier. Ho-woo thought for a bit, and guessed that it was probably some bad habit that Minhu was afraid to say. Yi-Sol kept shaking head. Although Minhu's personality was strange, it wasn't to the point of being perverted. Yi-Sol thought that it was most likely a health checkup. Maybe he wanted to confirm if he had any underlying diseases. So that night, Yi-Sol was completely lost in thought. The next day, the planning team met with Pilyo to discuss a new advertising idea. But because of the camera angle and changing the idea, Pilyo argued with Minhu. The meeting ended unhappily. Yi-Sol was resting sadly in the tea room when Minhu walked in. Minhu asked her to come to his house tonight again. That night, Yi-Sol and Minhu hugged each other and fell on the bed. When the two were about to kiss, Minhu suddenly asked Yi-Sol to remember how they made love in the future that she saw. Yi-Sol said that it seemed like the two of them got drunk and kissed from the hallway to the bedroom. They knocked over the vase without stopping. Minhu looked at the tree he loved and shouted loudly, saying it was impossible. How could he have the heart to break it? In case it came true, Minho told Yisol to move it, but on the way, she accidentally broke an even more valuable display, making Minho extremely miserable. Finally, after calming down, Yisol took out a confidentiality agreement, hoping that the two of them would not affect each other's careers. Through the description of Yisol's future scene, Minho saw that with his personality, he absolutely could not get drunk and go too far with her. The only possibility was that the two of them truly loved each other. If Yisol wanted to go too far with him, the two of them would have to date first. When their feelings were right, everything would happen naturally. This was a condition that Minho had not finished talking about last night. Yisol was extremely surprised. She found that this condition was completely different from her and her sister's previous speculation. The next day, Yisol refused Minho's date proposal. He was extremely angry when he heard that. He really didn't know why she refused to love him. She was clearly single. This sentence had touched Yisol's pride. Just when Pilio called to discuss the advertisement, Yisol, in a fit of anger, agreed to go on 3 dates with Pilio. Consider it as compensation for the camera. That day Minho went to see his personal doctor. It turned out that Minho had a special ability. His senses were 5 times more sensitive than other people. This kind of close contact like hissing would make his body extremely uncomfortable. At night, when Yisol returned home, she found people gathering on the side of the road. There were often super thieves in this area recently, so the neighbors next door reminded Yisol to be careful. The next day, Yisol took a day off to go camping with Pilio. Pilio was very happy during the date. He thought that the two of them could make up. Only Yisol knew that she agreed to date him not because of feelings. At night, Pilio showed a movie outside the tent and started to reminisce about the past. The two of them came together through filming a movie. From the first meeting to falling in love, everything was extremely romantic. Pilio really didn't understand why the two of them broke up. Yisol was silent because she saw that in the future, the ending for the two of them could only be tragedy. Missing originally represented happiness, but for Yisol it made the distance between happiness and her even further away. The camping date ended. Pilio took Yisol home, but as soon as she entered the house, she felt something was wrong. The floor was messy, and the circuit breaker in the house was also turned off. Yisol had no choice but to raise her phone. At this moment, a light bulb slowly came out from the dark, preparing to attack her. In the moment of danger, Minho's voice rang out. The robber heard the man's voice and immediately ran away. It turned out that Minho knew that Yisol was on a date with Pilio today. He kept thinking about it all day. Finally, he drove near her house. When he was about to call her, his ears heard her extremely small cry for help. That's why he immediately rushed into the house to rescue her in time. But looking at the messy house, she definitely couldn't sleep here tonight. So Minho took Yisol to the company dormitory to stay overnight. On the way, a car suddenly sped up and braked, making Yisol dizzy. Suddenly, she remembered the scene of the two getting drunk and kissing in the future that she had seen. Out of the future, the two hugged and kissed happily. Minho's eyes were filled with affection, completely unlike his usual expression. Because of these scenes, Yisol fell into a state of surprise. Minho heard Yisol's heart pounding, so he reached out to touch her forehead. Unexpectedly, this scene was seen by a female colleague who worked overtime. When she returned to the dormitory, the female colleague asked if Yisol was in love with Minho. Yisol insisted that it was not true, but thinking back, if it was true like the scene in the future, then the two of them were definitely a couple deeply in love. Thinking up to this point, Yisol was not so sure. On the other side, Minho had heard the whispers of the two. The next day, Minho encountered a big problem. In order to film a new car that had not yet been released, Minho had signed a confidentiality agreement with the car company. Unexpectedly, Pilio completely ignored this agreement. Pilio took a lot of photos of the new car's design, and then someone posted them online. This caused the advertising company to face a large amount of compensation for breach of contract. The concept director and other team leaders took this opportunity to ask the representative to kick Minho out of Joe's. However, the representative really liked Minho, so he agreed to protect him. It was just that revealing a secret needed someone to take responsibility. He implicitly hinted to Minho to take someone to take responsibility. This person was none other than Yisol. After all, Yisol was right there when Pilio took the photos, but she did not stop him. In the end, Yisol was kicked out of the project this time, and she was also transferred to the other team. She did not say anything, but immediately handed over the work and said goodbye to Minho. But after sitting in the new office, she still couldn't help but feel heartbroken and fell to the ground, crying. She encouraged herself to try harder next time. Minho heard all of these choked words. Minho secretly found Pilio and informed him that Yisol had been fired by the planning team because of his breach of contract. Pilio felt extremely guilty and no longer cared about his creative requests. No matter what Patia needed, he would cooperate fully, because only when Yisol was able to film an advertisement that satisfied everyone would she have a chance to be reinstated. After work, Yisol went to the police station to cooperate with the investigation. Unexpectedly, Minho arrived one step ahead and helped her provide clues. After Yisol returned home, Minho became even busier and quickly helped her install the camera. His concern made her unconsciously remember the past. Every time she encountered trouble, Minho would appear first to help. That proved that he always cared about her. Yisol asked Minho directly if he liked her. He answered frankly, yes. He also told Yisol to quickly give him an answer, whether she wanted to date with him or not. Unexpectedly, Pilyo also came to Yisol's house at this time. The love rivals met each other, so they were extremely upset. So, the three of them went to the bar. The two men were jealous and fought right in front of the girl they liked. Both of them compared their alcohol tolerance and finally fell drunk on the table. Pilyo was taken away by her assistant, while Yisol had to take Minho to her house. Looking at him sleeping soundly, she muttered to herself that maybe the two of them would love each other in the future. Because through all the future predictions up to now, this was the first time Yisol saw herself happy. The next day, the commercial officially started filming. In the evening after work, Yisol went to see Minho. He asked her if she had an answer yet. Actually, Yisol herself already knew whether she was willing to date or not. The future had given her the answer a long time ago. Last night, after taking Minho home to confirm whether she would really be happy if she were with him, she kissed him again. This time, Yisol really saw the extremely sweet life of the two. Those smiles all came from the bottom of her heart without any pretense. Yisol seriously replied to Minho that let's start dating. Every day she dated Minho, Yisol was as nervous as a new employee. On the way to work, she checked and rechecked her makeup. She wanted to leave a perfect impression in his eyes, but his attitude did not change at all. At the company, he only talked about work with her, no matter how much she expected. Minho did not call her once. It was not until after work that he took her to a high-class restaurant for dinner. While eating, Yisol took out a dating contract. She thought that their relationship was special, so it was best to clearly draw the line to avoid creating unnecessary awkwardness. It stipulated that the two people were not allowed to ask about private matters that the other person did not want to talk about. If it was not a special situation, they would not meet during work days and would only date on weekends. After reading it, Minho added that they could not meet on Saturdays and Tuesdays of every month, and he strictly forbade Yisol from stealing kisses from him. In the end, Minho objected to a clause that after realizing the future, the two of them would immediately stop dating, because he would treat her as a real lover to be with, not a casual way to complete a mission like this. While the two were talking, Ji-young suddenly walked over. She was surprised to see Minho and Yisol. Yisol was still trying to hide it, but Minho was extremely straightforward. He told Ji-young that they were dating. When the two of them left the restaurant, Ji-young also chased after them. She asked if Minho had told Yisol his secret. Yisol was very concerned about this statement. On the way home, she spoke up to probe the results, but was blocked by the clause she had set. Clause 1 of this stated that she could not ask about private matters if the other person did not want to talk. Then Yisol asked about his relationship with Ji-young. Minho replied that the two of them were childhood friends. Then he took out a photo of himself and Ji-young together when they were young to show her. But Yisol felt that this photo was a bit familiar. After returning home, she remembered that Ji-young had appeared in a commercial that her father had filmed when she was young. The atmosphere in the meeting room and the next day was extremely heavy because the planning team had encountered a difficult partner. The other side kept sending requests for edits, which made Pilyo extremely upset, and he angrily left the meeting room. At the same time, they lost contact with Ji-young, and the plan this time was completely at a standstill. Pilyo sadly went to Yisol to confide in him. He complained that the partner had asked to edit the commercial many times, including Ji-young. At this time, Yisol showed him the commercial that her father had filmed, which turned out to be an advertisement for the same car company. Yisol told Pilyo that the girl in the commercial was Ji-young when she was young, and Yisol hoped that this information could help him. Thanks to Yisol's reminder, Pilyo suddenly had a new idea, which was to use Ji-young's car as the theme of her life from childhood to adulthood. After rewriting the new plan and handing over the manuscript, Pilyo was extremely pleased. He deliberately emphasized that this idea was given to him by Yisol in front of Minho. She was afraid that her help this time would make Pilyo think that there was a chance to get back together, so she found an opportunity to tell him that she was dating Minho. Unexpectedly, Pilyo didn't believe it at all. He just felt that she was just making excuses to reject him. After returning to the company, Minho also began to show jealousy. He wanted to add a clause in the dating contract that prohibited Yisol from being with other men because he was extremely possessive in love. This personality made Yisol have a different view of Minho. It turned out that he was not an emotionless working machine. If he was such a straightforward person, how could he bear to have a secret crush on her for so long without confessing? Hearing Yisol's question, Minho began to tell the story of his secret crush. The first time he met Yisol, he had the feeling he had been expecting for a long time. But because she and Pilyo were dating, he could only hold it in. After the two broke up, she cried and said she didn't want to date anymore. Most importantly, every time she stayed up late to work overtime, she scolded him behind his back and said that if she dated him, she would ruin both of her hands. Minhu was afraid that Yisol would do what she said, so he could only continue to endure. While talking, he looked at her face that was about to get closer, trying to suppress the urge to kiss her. Then he added a condition that the two of them could kiss. Furthermore, when kissing they had to spend the night together. This sentence made Yisol extremely moved. Minhu laughed when he heard her reaction. This morning Yisol woke up in fear because of a dream of falling into the water. She looked at the calendar and saw that today was the third Saturday of the month. This was the day she was not allowed to contact Minhu. Yisol was bored, so she went out for a walk. When she returned home, she saw her mother coming. Because of the dream this morning, Daesel asked her mother if she had fallen somewhere when she was little, but Saad did not answer directly. Today, Minhu and Sungtae went back to the orphanage where Minhu used to live. While walking, Minhu asked Kyungsa many questions. All of them were related to whether or not the brain would automatically erase that memory after being shocked. On the other hand, Pilyo was extremely satisfied with the new advertising plan. Because Yesel had appeared in commercials when she was young, the company specially let her return to the planning team to participate in production. When Pilyo heard that Yesel was coming back, he wanted to go to the company to congratulate her. Unexpectedly, when he went out, he accidentally picked up the dating contract that Yisol had dropped. Only then did he believe that Yisol and Minhu were really dating. The future specified in it made him extremely worried, because the reason Yisol broke up with him was that the two of them had no future. It was as if she saw it with her own eyes. Therefore, Pilyo guessed that the reason Yisol and Minhu were dating was the reason she broke up with him. This reason was because Yisol could see the future. 3 years ago, Yisol saw another girl who got married and had children with Pilyo, not her. She felt very sad, so she suggested breaking up with him, which Pilyo couldn't understand. He once went to Yisol's house and accidentally heard her and her sister's conversation, saying that the reason for breaking up was that Yisol saw the future. Their love was destined not to last. But this reason was so absurd that Pilyo couldn't convince himself at that time. It wasn't until later when he filmed a movie based on Yisol that he gradually understood her. Before every time the two kissed, Yisol would cry in pain. It turned out that she could really see the future. What made Pilyo angry was that Yisol couldn't tell him why she was now calmly telling Minhu. She even signed a contract with Minhu. Yisol didn't know why she did that either. Late at night, Minhu and Yisol went on a date. He guessed that the reason she and Pilyo broke up was because she saw an unhappy future. If that's true, then one day when Yisol sees the tragic ending of the two of them, she will also decisively break up with him. Yisol didn't say anything. She silently admitted the speculation, but Minhu was very confident. He promised that he would absolutely not let her see an unhappy future. A few days later, the plan was officially approved, everyone prepared to start filming. Today, after the company meeting, Pilyo took Yisol to a place. He wanted to prove that the future she saw was not correct. The two went to a coffee shop. The owner here was Pilyo's future lover that she saw. Eunjung saw Yisol and said that it was true that when she was young, she had pursued Pilyo and even forced a kiss on him. But the action scared Pilyo. Not only did he stay away, but also drew a clear line with her. It was not until she got married and had children that he contacted her again. At this time, Pilyo was playing with Eunjong's child. The two of them standing next to each other looked very much like a married couple. Yisol suddenly remembered that this was the future scene she had seen. It turned out that it was this scene that made her think that this was the image of Pilyo and his wife. She had misunderstood. Seeing this, Yisol's mind became extremely chaotic. She quickly turned around and left. Pilyo chased after her and told her the reason why he came back 3 years later. It was because he wanted to wait until Eunjung got married and had children before coming back to prove to Yisol that the future she saw was wrong. Regardless of the past, present, or future, he still loved her. He had never thought of leaving her, but Yisol could not accept Pilyo anymore, even though they broke up because of her. Late at night, Yisol was drinking alone to drown her sorrows. The phone beside her kept ringing. It was Minhu calling, after a long silence. Yisol finally called him back, but the person who answered the phone was Ji-young. Ji-young deliberately said that she was dating Minhu, and also said that Minhu was only dating Yisol because he felt that Yisol had special abilities. This made Yisol suspicious. Could it be that Minhu had told others about her seeing the future? But the truth was that Minhu was just having a meal with Kyungsa's family. Ji-young was Kyungsa's daughter. The next day, Yisol went to work and was told by her colleagues that she had become famous. It turned out that Pilyo's confession to her yesterday was filmed by passerby and then posted online. Minhu also saw the video, so he immediately went to find Yisol to vent his anger. But her anger was also burning inside. She criticized him for telling Ji-young about her special ability, but he tried to deny it, and at this time, Yisol asked Minhu what the secret Ji-young was referring to was. Minhu did not respond and hurriedly left. This time, the two broke up in an argument. Yisol didn't answer Minhu's calls anymore, even though the two of them went on a business trip together to film a commercial. She deliberately avoided him. While Yisol was walking outside the hotel, her mother called that the mother found a photo frame under her sofa. Her father's photo had been taken, But Yisol did not know who took her photo. For the time being, she had no clue. While staying at the hotel, Minho received a call from the police. They had caught the robber who specialized in breaking into houses in Yisol's neighborhood. But this guy said that he had never entered Yisol's house to steal, and the other person's appearance was also completely different from what Minho described. If the person who broke into house was not the robber, then who could it be? Before Minho could think, Ji-young called him out. She saw that his heart was leaning towards Yisol, so she was extremely dissatisfied. Ji-young went forward and forced a kiss on Minho. At this moment, Yisol came back from a walk and saw this scene. Seeing Yisol run away in disappointment, Minho tried to hold back his discomfort after kissing and chased after her. He wanted to explain, but she didn't listen. Minho thought that Yisol was swayed by Pilio and she wanted to return to him. The misunderstanding her standing was like a snowball that got bigger and bigger, and in the end, she suggested breaking up. After the argument, Yisol did not return to her room. Minho didn't hear any movement from Yisol's room and started to feel uneasy. He tried to endure the pain to go out to find her. At this time, she was slowly walking on the path in the middle of the forest. Not far away, a man in black was slowly walking towards her, with a towel soaked in anesthetic. Minho arrived in time, so the other man was scared and retreated. Yisol didn't know anything about the dangerous situation just now and was only angry at him. In the end, Minho couldn't bear the after effects of the kiss anymore. He knelt on the ground in pain. Finally, Yisol's expression changed and her attitude softened. Yisol helped Minho go back to his room to take medicine. After taking the medicine, Minho's symptoms subsided. She remembered that there were many bottles of medicine in his house, so she became even more curious about his illness. Minho replied that he would faint if he kissed, but Yisol remembered that the two of them had kissed many times, except for the first time, which was intentional. The following times, Minho kissed her without any sign of discomfort. He explained that she was an exception, and that as long as he was by her side, his illness would improve. As he spoke, Minho held Yisol's hand tightly and began to absorb the healing energy for himself. After a while, Minho unconsciously leaned on Yisol's shoulder and fell asleep. Thanks to her staying by his side all night, Minho had fully recovered the next day. He called the police to report that he had seen the man in black driving away last night. Because the license plate was covered, he could only say the name of the taxi company and the 1st of February numbers of the license plate. He reminded the police that the man in black was most likely related to the mysterious person who broke into Yisol's house. When he returned to the room, Yisol had already woken up. The two held hands and made peace. They agreed not to casually mention their breakup again. As soon as they left the hotel, Ji-young and Pilio came over one after the other. Ji-young saw Minho's face full of vitality and immediately lost control of her emotions. At the crucial moment, Pilio hurriedly pulled her aside to comfort her, but Ji-young still cried uncontrollably. It turned out that Yisol was really Minho's special person. Pilio was upset by Ji-young's crying, and he was actually extremely sad inside. It turned out that Pilio wanted to bring breakfast to Yisol, but he didn't expect to see Yisol and her boyfriend happily getting along. As for him, he turned into a redundant clown. Today's commercial filming also encountered continuous trouble. Ji-young arrived very late, then fell during filming, so she couldn't run anymore. Luckily, Pilio was almost done filming. There are only a few scenes left to film behind. If that was the case, a body double would be needed. Everyone looked around at all the girls around. Obviously, Yisol was the most suitable choice. Yisol looked extremely beautiful, running on the grass in a wedding dress. Minho smiled unconsciously, making Pilio next to him feel extremely bitter. While filming, Minho seemed to hear something. He suddenly told the staff to clear away all the obstacles, blocking the way to make a path. Sure enough, a few minutes later, a convoy of police cars passed by, which caused everyone to talk excitedly. They felt that Minho had the ability to predict. Sol was also suspicious. She recalled the many times Minho had accurately predicted what was about to happen, so she began to suspect that the real illness that was bothering Minho was not kissing, but something related to prophecy. After filming the commercial, Yisol took advantage of the time when Minho was working and intentionally went to the airport first. In a situation where there were no hints, Minho still found her. This confirmed Yisol's guess. Under Yisol's questioning, he could only reveal the secret that his 5 senses were very sensitive. Not only that, but his senses would become even more sensitive after kissing. It even led to fainting, accompanied by a feeling of pain spreading throughout his body. But Yisol did not show any stigma. On the contrary, she sympathized with him. After all, they were both eccentric people. After returning home, Yisol and her mother rearranged the items in the house together. When she flipped through the photo album, she suddenly discovered that all the photos related to her father had disappeared. Yisol screamed in fear. Could it be that the thief who broke into her house last time was to steal them? This thief really has a special hobby. Only Sarah had a gloomy face. It seemed like she had something on her mind. On the other side, Minho at home kept searching for keywords related to the Blood Moon murder case. Yisol's father was the victim in this case. Although the murderer Mr. Kim had left this world by himself, the surveillance video at the time of the crime had mysteriously disappeared. This made the case still shrouded in mist. The next day, when Yi-sol got home from work, she received a letter. In there was a movie ticket and a message from Pilyo. He hoped she would watch the movie once, because it was a story about the two of them. Yi-sol did not refuse, and that night she went to the cinema. As Pilyo had said, every single thing the male and female leads did in the movie had a shadow of the time when they were dating. After the movie ended, Pilyo sat next to Yi-sol. During the previous business trip, Pilyo had noticed the way Yi-sol looked at Min-hoo. Exactly the same way she looked at him when they were still passionately in love. Pilyo was fully aware that he no longer had any chances. He was worried that one day Yi-sol would also see an unhappy future with Min-hoo. She replied that she would bravely accept it and would not run away like before. She would not repeat the same mistake as before and miss out on true love again. After saying goodbye to Pilyo, Yi-sol went to Min-hoo's house and personally tore up the dating contract. From this moment on, she will let go of everything and let herself be completely immersed in this love. Even if the ending is not good, she will absolutely have no regrets. After speaking, Yi-sol and Min-hoo shared passionate kiss. The next day she woke up in his house. She happily explored the secret world in his house. She asked him who painted the painting in the corner of the wall. He replied that it was the work he and his first love had completed together. After breakfast, the two of them played a game to test their hearing. Even though Min-hoo was wearing soundproof headphones, no matter how softly Yi-sol spoke, he could still hear her. With surprise, she asked him when he had contracted this disease. Min-hoo recalled the unexpected incident that happened when he was 13 years old. He woke up after being in a coma for a week. The whole world suddenly became extremely deafening, all kinds of sounds competing to stimulate his eardrums. He struggled very hard to overcome those sounds and lived peacefully until now. Yi-sol completely understood what Min-hoo had gone through, because her growth process was quite similar to his. It also started from fear and insecurity to gradually overcoming and accepting. It was just that in that process, she had to endure more loneliness. Confiding everything in her heart, Yi-sol felt more comfortable and relieved. This was the first time she talked about her secret with her boyfriend. This unrestrained free love made her feel lighter than ever. At this time, Yi-sol saw a suit in Min-hoo's wardrobe. It was the suit he wore when he spent the spring night with her in the future that she saw. He thought she was hinting to him that he wanted to spend the night with him tomorrow. So the next day he wore that suit to work. Unexpectedly, she immediately denied his thoughts. She would no longer care about the future. She just wanted to love peacefully. Today Yi-sol had something to do and needed to meet Ji-young. Because Min-hoo was taken away, so Ji-young was always upset the whole time. She also kept doubting Yi-sol's love for Min-hoo. Facing Ji-young's constant attacks, Yi-sol refused to give in. She warned Ji-young to never touch Min-hoo's lips again because he was hers. The aftertaste of this sentence was extremely strong. Every time Yi-sol recalled it, it made her feel extremely sweet. Ji-young was heartbroken and could only dress up and go out drinking. Sitting alone was too lonely, so she called Pilyo, who was also heartbroken, to come over and relieve their sadness together. Yi-sol was immersed in love and began to let herself go, always wanting to be intimate with her lover. Because Yi-sol's mind was full of Min-hoo, she was completely out of the mood to work. It wasn't easy for her to turn on the computer to type, but she ended up writing a love plan. She set up a series of secret signals to secretly date at the company. She created all kinds of hints through scent, tapping, and special movements to let Min-hoo know and go to the corresponding meeting place. Because they wanted to avoid the worries that a kiss would bring, both of them tried their best to avoid lip contact. Instead, they would kiss her cheeks and forehead more. After carrying out their love plan for a day, Min-hoo still couldn't control himself. Regardless of whether kissing her lips would bring pain or not, he still wanted to kiss her. Tomorrow was Sa's art exhibition, and Min-hoo wanted to appear as her son-in-law. While choosing clothes, he suddenly looked at the painting in the corner of the wall. It turned out that the first love he was talking about was Yi-sol from her childhood, but for some reason, she had forgotten that memory. But her mother still remembered him, so the two of them secretly met. Sarah apologized to Min-hoo. That year when he was still in the hospital, she moved abroad. It seemed that Yi-sol's memory loss and the unexpected incident with Min-hoo were closely related. At this time, a man in black sent several sketches to the exhibition, all of which were paintings of Sarah. On the day of the exhibition, Min-hoo gave Yi-sol a necklace. She realized that this necklace had also appeared in the future she saw. It seemed like they were getting closer to that night. Yi-sol and Min-hoo started dressing up like what she saw in the future, to prepare for the date that would take place at some unknown time. But for several days in a row after work, they were dragged away by nameless activities. It was either overtime or gathering, so Min-hoo could only follow Yi-sol to the gathering place. While eating and drinking, everyone played a game of truth or dare. Unexpectedly, The wine bottle kept pointing at Minhu, making him the unluckiest person tonight. His colleagues competed to ask all kinds of questions, but gradually they also understood that whenever Minhu's first love was mentioned, he would choose to drink. So he had to drink several glasses of wine in a row. When he couldn't hold it anymore, Minhu took out his phone and sent a message to Yisol. He wanted to escape the gathering with her, but in his haste, he mistakenly sent it to the group chat. After sending it, he quickly explained that he originally wanted to send it to his girlfriend, but unexpectedly, that sentence made his colleagues even more curious. They guessed that his girlfriend must also work in their company. Minhu drank a lot tonight, and under the influence of alcohol, his feelings for Yisol became even stronger. When Jel Sol brought Minhu home, the two couldn't wait any longer and passionately kissed each other. Then, they accidentally broke the flower pot that Minhu loved. This was a very clear signal that both of them were aware that the future that Yisol saw had arrived. So they kissed more and more passionately. And finally, our male and female leads waited for the future moment that they both expected. The next morning, the couple woke up from their sweet sleep. Minhu finally said the words, "I love you," that Yisol had been waiting for so long. At the same time, he gave her a good morning kiss, filled with love. Unexpectedly, after the kiss, Yisol's face suddenly became confused, and she quickly ran into the study room next door to calm down. It turned out that when she kissed him, she saw him being seriously injured because of her, and had to be rushed to the emergency room. Minhu realized that Yisol was a bit unusual, and he understood that she must have seen a bad future. While he was asking, Yisol received a phone call from her sister. It turned out that Sa's current boyfriend had a car accident, so Yisol rushed to the hospital to visit him. Minhu called Sa directly, and through the conversation, it could be seen that Sa knew who the culprit was, because before her boyfriend had an accident, she had received a bunch of secretly taken photos of him. Minhu immediately understood who the culprit she was referring to. He wanted to tell Yisol, but was stopped by Sa. Sa didn't want her daughter to remember those scary memories. Today was the day the car commercial aide, Ji Young, specially came to the company to wait for the commercial to air with Hilio. Because they both suffered from heartbreak, after a few drinks, the two became good friends. Sa had just arrived at the hospital to visit her boyfriend when she received a phone call. Kim Hajin on the other end of the line, with a crazy person chasing Sa. The car accident was caused by him, and his purpose was to kill the man next to her. Kim Hajin declared that he would soon meet her and their two daughters. Despite Sa's screams that Yisol was not his daughter, Kim Hajin was too deep in his own illusions. At this time, Yisol went to ask who her mother had just talked to on the phone. Sarah lied that it was just a college friend because that person was dissatisfied with her about some things in the past, which caused the tragedy. The person who stole her father's photo before was also him, to protect Yisol's safety. Sarah told her to go to Minhu's house, but Yisol kept wondering why Minhu would be injured because of her. Seeing that Minhu both comforted and persuaded her to tell him what she had seen, Yisol began to remember that when Minhu was injured, it was a snowy night with a blood moon in the sky, and strange lights all around. The location was next to the reservoir at the orphanage. Hearing what Yisol described, Minhu vaguely guessed that it would happen on the orphanage's founding anniversary in order to catch Kim Hajin. Minhu went to the police. He asked them to follow the route that Sa's boyfriend was secretly photographed, asking nearby residents and vehicles to provide the surveillance camera footage for investigation. Thanks to their tireless efforts, they finally discovered Kim Hajin's crime scene. Minhu saw Yisol was gloomy all day, so after work today, he took her out on a date. Thanks to her lover's pampering, she finally regained her smile. But every quiet night, she remembered the scene of him being taken to the emergency room and couldn't stop crying. In the end, she left a note saying that she would be in America before the winter ended, because if she stayed away from him, he wouldn't be hurt because of her. Yisol dragged her luggage on the street in the middle of the night, when suddenly a figure followed her. She quickly ran to the bar she often went to for help, and as soon as Yisol turned around, she saw the owner appear right behind her. She didn't know that this owner was Kim Hajin, so she drank the cup of coffee he gave her. After drinking it, she immediately felt dizzy and fainted. When she woke up, she found herself locked in a dark room. Kim Hajin stood opposite her and claimed to be her father, then started talking about his delusions that had lasted for more than 10 years. Since college, Kim Hajin had secretly loved Sarah. After she got married, he hated her husband even more to the bone. In the end, his mentality became distorted, and he killed Yisol's father. Knowing that the person standing in front of her was a pervert, Yisol tried to stay calm. She admitted that she was his daughter, according to his wishes. After Kim Hajin let her guard down, she started looking for a way to escape from here. Not long after Yisol broke the window and escaped from the room, Minhu searched everywhere but couldn't find her, so he went to the orphanage. Unexpectedly, he discovered that the anniversary was being held earlier than expected, and it was taking place tonight. Minhu immediately remembered the reservoir in Yisol's prophecy. Because jumped from high place, Yisol could only limp into the forest. While she was careless, she ran to the frozen reservoir only to see the ice cracked and she fell straight into the water. Luckily, Minhu arrived in time and saved her. Then he gave her artificial respiration. At this time, a blood moon appeared in the sky, a strange natural phenomenon that made Minhu's head hurt terribly. At this time, Kim Ha-jin came with a knife and continuously attacked him. Yi-sol woke up and saw Minhu lying in a pool of blood. She quickly hugged him and cried. At this time, the police also chased and arrested Kim Ha-jin. It turned out that Minhu had already called the police before coming here. Just like what Yi-sol saw, Minhu was taken to the emergency room. Standing outside the operating room, waiting for Yi-sol to ask her mother that why you didn't tell me about how I and Minhu had known each other since childhood, it turned out that falling into the water earlier had reminded Yi-sol of her lost memories. When was young, Yi-sol had moved to live near the orphanage. One day she got lost and cried, and it was Minhu who had helped her find her way home. From then on, she considered him her older brother, and whenever he was bullied, she would bravely stand up to protect him. Because he was an orphan, Minhu always kept to himself and didn't make friends with anyone. When he was bullied, he could only silently endure it. But Yi-sol grabbed his hand and offered to help him fight off those bad kids, long as he could cheer up and play with her. That was enough. From then on, Minhu and Yi-sol's family spent a wonderful time together. Thanks to Yi-sol's father, Minhu also started to be interested in advertising. One night, Minhu brought Yi-sol home. As soon as he entered the house, he discovered her father lying on the ground, surrounded by a mess. He mustered up all his courage to go inside, and Kim Ha-jin suddenly jumped out from behind the curtain. He hurriedly pulled Yi-sol's hand and ran deep into the forest, hiding next to the reservoir at the orphanage. At that time, a blood moon also appeared in the sky, shining down on the ground in an eerie way. To avoid Yi-sol being discovered, Minhu proactively revealed his location and lured Kim Ha-jin to go in another direction. After tricking Kim Ha-jin, Minhu secretly returned to the reservoir unexpectedly. Yi-sol was so excited that she accidentally fell in. Minhu also saved her and performed CPR like before. The moment their lips touched, the blood moon seemed to release magic. Minhu immediately felt a terrible headache and fainted right next to Yi-sol. After recovering, Yi-sol forgot that terrifying memory. She didn't even remember Minhu. At this point, the surgery was over. Although Minhu was saved, he probably wouldn't wake up again. Today, Kyungsa came to visit Minhu. He finally met Yi-sol. He felt that Minhu and her abilities were born to protect each other. As long as Yi-sol was still by Minhu's side to protect him, he would definitely wake up. Sure enough, as soon as Kyungsa left, Yi-sol received good news that Minhu woke up. After that, the two of them discovered that the after effects of each kiss had disappeared, which was a very good thing for them. From now on, the two of them could love and live together like other normal couples, without being tormented by the pain of knowing the future. The couple's life returned to its previous orbit. One afternoon, when Minhu and Yi-sol were sitting on the rooftop and enjoying the breeze, they suddenly discovered a letter left by Pilyo on the wall. Although Pilyo was still very sad, he could see that she was happy, so he felt that it was enough. After reading it, Yi-sol sincerely thanked Pilyo for his understanding and support. She put her arm around Minhu, and even though they were both at the company, she still kissed him. This time, her love would definitely last forever. But when they publicly dated like normal couples, the two of them kept arguing. They became a couple that everyone in the company knew about. Yi-sol kept mentioning the word breakup all day long. Today, the two argued again. Yi-sol started packing up her things and wanted to move out of Minhu's house. At this time, the TV was broadcasting live an interview about Pilyo's new movie. The female star he collaborated with, this time, was Ji-young. From drinking buddies, Pilyo and Ji-young gradually developed feelings for each other. During the interview, Ji-young suddenly confessed to Pilyo, and the two officially announced it on TV. Seeing that Pilyo had also found romantic love, Yi-sol felt a little bitter. She ran straight out into the snowy night. She kept walking and turning back, hoping that Minhu would appear and take her home. Sure enough, a second later, Minhu came running after her, panting and apologizing to her. The two linked arms and made up. Perhaps nothing in this world is predetermined. True love is always simple and not flashy. Maybe being with the person you love every day is enough. Yi-sol suddenly kissed Minhu on the lips, and the two exchanged a passionate kiss under the moonlight. Suddenly, time stopped. Yi-sol opened her eyes. It seemed like her lost sixth sense had returned. The movie ended here. If you find it interesting, please give us a like so we have the motivation to make better videos.